Good afternoon, Thatcher and Carol Ross. This is Caroline Kirchen, your financial planner, and I have recently compiled your comprehensive financial plan, and I would like to now present that to you in a way that is understandable to the both of you and is something that is readable, because I do realize that the financial plan as it currently sits is rather lengthy, and it can be very technical in terms of just kind of number analysis and things like that. And so I do want to break this down for the both of you into bite-sized, manageable pieces. And so let's get started. So here right now is the first page of the financial plan that we are on. And as you can see, we have right here the abstract. And this is just kind of going to detail the details of the plan. And I want to first take us to our roadmap, if you will, of the table of contents. And so you'll find this right here. And you'll see here that we'll have like the cover letter, the engagement letter, and so forth and so on. So the cover letter is kind of the initial part, and it's just going to kind of talk about the general the stipulations between or the agreement rather between you and the client and the financial planner. And we'll find that more in the engagement letter as well. So the cover letter is just kind of a general, this is what your financial plan is, and then the engagement letter is going to actually detail more the engagements of myself as the planner and then you as the client and kind of what that relationship will look like. We have the summary of goals and objectives, and then we'll go into the different disciplines of your financial plan. So we'll have the cash management analysis, we will have tax and estate planning, we will have education planning, we'll have risk tolerance and looking into that. And so we'll start moving forward with that. I do want to first quickly mention your goals and objectives here. And this is something that I do want to make a point about in saying that these are the goals that we discussed on our first meeting, and these are some goals that you expressed wanting in your retirement plan. However, as a financial planner, it is my responsibility to get the goals and then assess the feasibility of the goals. And so part of assessing the feasibility of the goals is to take into consideration factors such as what do your investment vehicles look like, what do your let's talk about the 401k plan, let's talk about the quadro, let's talk about your monthly expenses, let's look at your ratios, and let's look at your liquidity ratio. Let's see how much money that you have on hand that's liquid, and let's see what's tied up. Let's look at other factors such as, how much are we spending on credit cards per month and that sort of thing. And so once I kind of went through all the restrictions, I was able to say, okay, these are the goals that you initially wanted, and then these are the kind of reassessed goals, and then this is what is actually feasible and what is actually not. But right here, these are just your initial goals. So we have, I broke them down into needs, wants, and then wishes. Needs would be the highest priority, obviously, then wants, and then wishes. So needs we have ranking as a 10, assets for Anne's care. We have a leave bequest for children, college, Jana's wedding, vehicles. Going to wants, we have travel, and the timeshare, and then wishes we have to build that cabin on your land. So I want to bring us down to your economic and retirement assumptions. These are numbers, and you will find all of my where I'm getting these numbers, I cite them at the bottom of the page, so I'm not just pulling these numbers out of thin air. But for the general inflation, Social Security inflation, I visited websites like ssa.gov, which is a Social Security website that kind of gives you the statistical and historical rates for Social Security inflation. For general inflation, there are different inflation calculators that we use with ABC Wealth Management, and then also Money Guide Pro, which is the software that we use, and they provide a lot of those types of calculators as well. Yes, so now I want to talk about the purpose of the plan. And so I talked about the summary of goals and objectives. And so these are the tangible physical goals. Okay, we want $50,000 for Anne's care. We want $40,000 for each vehicle, etc. But the purpose of the plan here is this is kind of the more broad, far-reaching intentions of the plan. This is what we want. This is what you, Thatcher, and Carol want to have knowledge about after the plan. So we're going to have we want to know the individual versus joint risk tolerances. This is something that I think is very important. I find this to be an issue with some of my clients, as generally with a married couple, one client is going to be more risk averse than the other. And so this is something that I think is worth taking into consideration, because it is your money. And so I don't want, Thatcher to invest in something that you don't think is aggressive enough, and then Carol, you to be disappointed because you think it's too aggressive. And so we want to find that happy medium and be able to provide for you both in that regard. And so that's something worth taking into consideration. And I do detail that further in the plan. What to do with Carol's quadro, estate planning for the new marriage. What'll that look like now that you are on your second marriage? Can Carol retire comfortably? Can Thatcher retire comfortably? The credit card balance, what's going up with that? It never seems to go down, even though monthly payments are being made. So let's kind of assess what's going on there. And I do want to say that we did, of course, have to make recommendations, assessments from your plan, and this is something that is just across the board with any client. They have their goals, we reassess them, and then we come up with a feasible way to approach those goals. And so yes, we did have to make some slight changes, but you are both, I can confidently say, at a place where you can retire and enjoy the retirement that you desire, because that's also a thing. We want to be able to retire, but then we want to have that peace of mind in retirement, knowing that, okay, we are at a confidence level that we can kind of rest assured going into retirement. And talking about the confidence level, that is something that I reference throughout the plan. And this is something that is a term from Money Guide Pro, and it talks about this is the level of confidence and that we have that your retirement plan will be indeed successful in retirement. And so this is just something that is important to just acknowledge in your plan, because you want to be at that confidence zone. Otherwise it's just a risky business and not something that we want to go into. So we want that 70 to 90% confidence zone. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and take you to the right here. I'm going through the cash flow statements, that we're going to go through the balance sheets, and I'm going to take you all the way down to your recommended scenario. And so you will find this about halfway through the plan. And this is going to be found on page 36, and this is your recommended scenario. And so this is going to say, okay, this is your confidence zone, and how did we arrive at that confidence zone? So I would now like to take you to Money Guide Pro, which is the software that I use in coming up with your confidence zone, and saying, okay, this is what we need to keep, this is what we don't need to keep. So let me just go ahead and take you there, and we're going to go ahead and look at these numbers together. And so you can get an idea of where I'm getting these numbers and how I'm coming up with this. So right here you will see, okay, this is our play zone. And so this is something that you'll see. I want to direct you to two numbers. We have the 91% and the 13%. Now, the 91%, So I'd like to take you now to direct you to these two numbers. We have the 91% and the 13%. The 91% that you see right here, this is your probability of success in retirement with the plan. And so this is saying, okay, we have a 91% confidence rate that this plan will be successful in retirement. And remember the number I said, we want it to be 70 to 90%. So having it at 91% is optimal. So, I'm now going to show you. So here we have, right here we have your retirement age, Thatcher. And so you had initially wanted I'm gonna click here to continue the session so you don't get logged off, okay? But you had expressed, Thatcher, that you wanted to retire at the age of 65, and you said you were somewhat willing to retire at maybe a later date. And so took this under consideration, and I actually reduced your retirement age by 2 years. Therefore, I increased your work life by 2 years. And so I moved that from 65 to 67. So as you see, I just played with it here, but I moved it to 68, and you see that will bump this up to 93. If I move this to 65, let's say, which is what you wanted in the beginning, it's going to bump your to 74%. And this is just 4% over the minimum threshold, and I would like to be comfortably over this threshold. So we're going to go ahead and move this back to 67. Now, I do want to make something clear that these are numbers that are that we can work with. You know, if you're saying, okay, I really just only want to work one more year, let's cut back our living expenses, our basic living expenses, then that is a conversation we can have. There is a cost and benefit for each expenditure and for each kind of situation that we're in. And so if we are wanting to increase retirement, then we're going to have to make some adjustments in other places. But this is something that, as your financial planner, I thought made the most sense to your overall financial plan. Carol, we have your retirement age at 59, so that stayed the same. Assets for Anne's care. This was very high priority, and so I went ahead and left this at $50,000 because we want to make sure that Anne is getting all the health care that she needs. Leave requests. I wanted to talk about this briefly with you. So we have the leave request for Jenna, Jason, and for Anne. And you had stipulated in your plan that you would like a $600,000 total allocation towards this. I will say that that number just simply really isn't feasible with the current situation of this plan. $600,000 is just really pushing it, and it would bring, when I was doing 600, it was putting us into the 30% confidence zone, and that's not somewhere where we want to be. So I reduced that quite a bit to 150,000 overall. I'm allocating 50,000 then to each respective child. And I do realize that that is quite a cut. That's probably the biggest cut in the plan, but it's something that I think will make the confidence zone where it needs to be. And so again, we can increase that. I came up with an alternative of 75,000, and it pushed us into the 80 percentile. So a little less confident, but if that's something that we really want to push, add an extra 25 to each child, we can definitely make that happen. Retirement basic living expenses. I reduced that to about 115,000, excuse me, and I reduced, so that's reducing your expenditures by about $15,000 annually, and I walk you through later on in the plan just very tangible ways to reduce these expenditures and ways to save so that you will be able to cut back that $15,000. And I'm excited to show you because it's really just a few quick and simple steps. So nothing to be worried about there. And then we have the leave request. College. We have Bregman's College. Now this was something that was a very high priority, and I do want to make this goal that you have a realization. And so looking at the comparable college is of in-state tuition, we're looking at about $11,000 a year. So it was like 10,000 or maybe 10,500. So 11,000 is a bit conservative for that in-state public. And so now I'm going to take you to the wedding for Jenna. We wanted to keep that at the $50,000 mark, which is the total amount that you initially wanted to allocate for her. So $50,000 is just fine. We have the car at $20,000. So you'll notice that this is a $20,000 reduction. The $40,000 was just a little high for the plan, and so I reduced it. And this is something that I did go ahead and find some cars that I think according to your expressed desires and vehicles that you mentioned before that I think we could find for 20,000. Perhaps we could be looking into maybe a used car or a used vehicle. But this $20,000 is a bit conservative, and I do realize that. So we can raise that a little bit. It is going to, of course, affect the confidence zone, but we can raise it comfortably to about $30,000 if that's something that you would be wanting to do. Again, that is at the cost of reducing the confidence zone. Travel, I reduced that several $1,000s to $4,000 annually. Since this is an annual expenditure, then it does need to be cut down a little bit because this is something that's going to be recurring every single year. And then the timeshare, we're looking about, to buy a timeshare, we were looking from $70,000 to $150,000. This was just something that right now, currently in the plan, is just not feasible. And then the cabin, again, that was like an $80,000 expenditure. And so we can, I do want to show you if we, let's say we do like, we'll try like 60. And I'll show you what that does to the probability of success. So it's going to reduce it to 87%. Not that bad. We could even reduce it or increase this to 80,000, and we would still be within the confidence zone. So if this is something that really is something that you would really like to kind of reward yourselves with in retirement, we can definitely make that happen. So I'll put this back here. I just want to kind of assure you that you are in a great place to retire financially, and being at that 93% is a great place to be at. I am confident that you will be able to retire and not just retire and, kind of be wondering, okay, is this something that, am I gonna run out of money or anything like that? You can retire, rest assured, knowing that you do have the finances in place to have a successful and enjoyable retirement. The rest of the plan is going to detail, after the recommended scenario, it's going to go through tax and estate planning. It's going to go through some of that risk tolerance levels that I talked about, but the bulk of the plan is really just kind of the recommended scenario, and seeing, as a client, you want to see, okay, are my goals feasible? And how is this going to happen? And so that's just kind of what I wanted to walk you towards. And so at a later date, we will go kind of into the more meat and bones of the plan and just kind of dissect, okay, these are the numbers, this is where we're getting from. But I did want to give you right now with this presentation just kind of an overview of, okay, this is where you are, and this is where we need to be, and this is where we're going to be in a couple years for retirement. So thank you so much for your time, and it's been a pleasure working for you both, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.